Now in this video, this is where it's a continuation from 1A. We're going to go on to 1B. And this is where Joanna and I was a contractor working on the road. So when Joanna and I got off the road and went to work for a small operating company in Western Oregon, well, we decided we would continue to live in our travel trailer that we had from when we were dragging it around the countryside. We only worked in 11 western states and Alaska, so everywhere we could take the trailer we did. Otherwise we lived in cheap rooming houses or motels. Or terrible experience. So we get there and we settle in and we're in a trailer, and we're used to that, so it's not moving around. We're not having to pack and unpack, so it's pretty good. So we had talked with a real estate agent in town. I think the small town actually had a second real estate agent, and I think they went belly up. So there was only one. And this gal, Lulu, or whatever her name was, comes by and says, hey, I found a house, just a house for you guys. And if this, it's the one she's got, and that's the one we ought to buy. So we go out and look at this thing, and we find this house that the guy from the clearinghouse has spent his life savings on, or his winnings on. And he probably his life savings as well. And the house was in pretty rough shape, and it was obviously built by some close relatives of the Three Stooges. And so we get out there and look at this thing, and I looked pretty hard at it and said, well, yeah, there's a lot of possibilities, but it's not going to be easy. So whatever they were asking, just pick a number, they wanted 50,000. So we get back, and the real estate agent comes, sits and has a cup of coffee with us when we get back to the trailer. John and I look at each other and we nod and talk a little bit. Say, yeah, well, we'll offer him 20. So the real estate agent, you know how they are. So you're killing me, and you're making an offer. So if you give me earnest money, I have to go and present it to them, and they're going to be, it's going to be I'm going to get in a dogfight with them because they're going to think I'm being terrible. But as well, here's a check for earnest money, and here's the signed offer. So go present it. And she's, they're going to laugh me out of here, and everybody in town's going to hear about it. It's terrible. And I mean, you could still hear her complaints and whining echoing back and forth in the trailer, and the phone rings. I pick up the phone, and she said, well, I recommended they not accept your offer, and they've signed it, and you've got a house. So we were $30,000 ahead, or whatever the amount was. So a few days later, a week later, something like that, they packed up a little bit they had left, and I think they put him in a straitjacket and put him in the car, and away they drove back to California or wherever they were going, and never did see him again. So we got in there, and I spent the next probably better part of a year doing everything that I could. I could fix the leaks, I could put the cabinets together. We got Joanna's brother to come out from Chicago, and he was going to come out, take the summer off, and go be a vacationer. And I said, well, those cabinets need to be sanded and stained and painted, or painted finished. And so he spent his summer doing that. And on Saturday and Sunday, we would generally take him out and show him some exciting place. Okay, let's go back. It's time for another coat and hang another cabinet. So we finally get the cabinets done. We got the island put in the kitchen, and we've done just all kinds of stuff. And I'd get Joanna going on her way to work in the morning, and then as soon as that was done, then I'd start working for another hour or something like that. And then I'd close everything up, and I'd go to town and work, because that's a full-time job. When I got off work, she was generally home cooking dinner, and I'd go home and we'd eat dinner, and then I'd go back to work on the house. So the first year was pretty busy, and spent a lot of money on my set of carpenter's tools, because I had electronic tools, but almost nothing as far as carpentry and plumbing and whatever. So that was a pretty good exposure or expense. So anyway, everything is actually getting pretty good. I found a guy in the next big town up who was supposed to be a great wizard craftsman and putting in fireplaces. So he comes out and looks at it with his three-legged dog, and old guy, and he's got a young kid carry his hod for him. And so he goes down. He said, well, I'll tell you what, I've got to build from the basement up. And he said, I might as well put a fireplace in there for you, because it's going to cost you the same thing. So he starts in the basement, and he puts in a nice standard, I'll call it, standard size basement fireplace. But it's a little wider brick-wise because he's got to have the base for the bigger fireplace up above. And the hole in the floor was unfinished. I'm talking about is probably 10 or 12 feet across and a couple 3 feet deep. And this guy has got visions, and truckloads of used brick, used red brick come in, and this guy levels it down in the basement and he starts building. And every night when he left, I'd go over there with a level and check and see, and it was still straight as a string and level as could be. So this guy had to be a craftsman. So finally he gets done, and here's this fireplace that's got to be 20 feet. It goes all the way to the cathedral ceiling. It's got to be 20 feet. And used red brick just fits in. The place looks like an older, early American style. So we've got that all done. And we put in carpet. We've had custom drapes built, and Joanna had great taste, so she'd done all that stuff. So about the end of the year and a half kind of mark, we're getting comfortable, and we've got a nice garden out there, and the pump shed's working, and the pump's working, and we have the water tested, and it's great. So I look out as I'm drinking my coffee one, I think it was Sunday morning, and here comes a guy from the same real estate outfit, only it's not Lulu. This time it's Philip, or whatever his name was. And he drives down, so the dog and I walk out on the porch. We had the porch went all the way around the house, about 4 feet on each side, 15 feet front and back. It was great. There's a lot of possibility there. And this guy gets out of his car. Good morning, Steve. And I say, oh, okay, hi. And I thought, I recognize the guy from the coffee shop or something. And I said, how can I help you? And he said, well, I've got some people that want to buy your house. I looked around like this, and I said, I don't see a for sale sign. Oh, he said, no, but they've seen your house on the road, and they want to buy your house. I said, well, that's interesting. I've got a lot of work in it. He said, well, what would it take to buy this house from you? Now that's where I'm thinking, my daddy would have said that's not a good way to start a negotiation. But so I thought, well, they wanted 36 or 50 or whatever it was, and I got 20, and a lot of people doing. I said, well, 60,000 in my pocket. That was a horseshit demand, so I knew he was going to turn around and go, all right. And he said, well, I think we might be able to do that. I thought, well, I should have asked for 70. So anyway, he says, I'll be back. That's nice. I drank my coffee, went back in the house, and joined some, what's he want? And he wants to buy our house. And she said, you didn't sell it, did you? I said, I told him we'd sell it for $60,000 in my pocket. Oh, she said, where are we going to live? We don't have a house then. He's not going to buy it. So like the next day he comes back and he said, tell you what, we got the good news. He said, FHAMQ alphabet soup loan, we'll give a loan, but you have to give 6 points or something like that. And, that means you're going to, instead of getting 60,000, you're going to get 54. I wasn't clear. I said, you got to put $60,000 in my pocket. And, it's not to start with 60 and we start taking away from it. And he says, oh, well, he said that the house won't qualify any more than 60 and the points you have to give up. I said, well, then it's still not for sale, so have a nice day. So I'll be back. So he leaves. Sure enough, he comes back the next day or two, and the parents of the guy and his wife, or one of the parents, has decided that they'll loan them money on a second for the house. Comes back and says, okay, I can get you $60,000. That's what shit. What do I do now? And he says, and here's this piece of paper, and on one side it says seller, and one side it says buyer, and it says, well, we've got to have your water system tested. I said, works good. See that garden out there? I said, it works fine. You can hold a garden hose out there, and it'll fill a 5-gallon bucket in a minute. I didn't, whatever it was. And he said, oh, okay. And you're not going to pay for that. And I said, no. He said, okay, so I'll move that $300 cost over to the buyer side. And then we did the same thing with the sewage system, drain field and whatever. I said, you don't smell any poop. It's not the grass is not turning green out behind the house in the field. It's fine. So he said, okay, we'll move that over. So I said, okay. And he said, then now when you take my fee out, that's 6%. I said, I don't think I'm going to pay you 6% for that. So he said, okay. He goes away and says, I'll be back. So hang on a minute and we'll do the third part of this.